when I was younger, I was like, it's gonna be food. So it was like, boop, one bubble. Food, cooking, community.
That is my good friend, Ellen Bennett, founder, entrepreneur, and of course, the Apron Lady. Ellen is the creative force behind Hedley Bennett, the apron and chefwear company that is basically the Gucci of the kitchen.
I did all the food I could do. And in that, I was like, oh, but these uniforms are shitty. And look at how people are feeling.
She went from being a cook at some of the best restaurants in Los Angeles to building a global brand that is essential for chefs and home cooks alike. But here's the thing, Ellen isn't just making aprons. She's empowering cooks everywhere to take pride in the uniform they wear.
It was basically you had a sheet with a string getting your ass handed to you. We looked terrible and we felt terrible.
Was once a flimsy, grease-stained, burnt, and cheap piece of fabric is now their superhero cape, a tool to take pride in cooking.
I want to be, Nike of the culinary world. I like this idea of creating something that means something to people.
In this episode, we dive into Ellen's wild journey as a founder, her relentless hustle, knocking on doors, and turning every no into a yes.
Selling everything from like canola oil to bulletproof vehicles and a lottery host. I remember that job.
This is Unplated with Antonio Diaz. Hi, Ellen.
Hi.
It's so good to see you.
I know, oh my God.
I've been looking forward to this for so long.
We're getting old. We've known each other
we're
for
veterans.
12 years.
I remember coming to your first little studio like in downtown.
Yeah.
It was like your whole operation was like the size of this room.
Yeah, maybe smaller.
Yeah.
It was 400 square feet.
I remember when I reached out to you, it was like one of the first interviews we did for Life Thyme.
Oh my God.
And you're like, yeah, come over. I was like, oh my God, like Ellen said yes. You were already like a big deal.
Oh.
So that was really exciting.
Just a maniac out there in the world.
I actually wanted to start with the title of your book, Dream First, Details Later, How to Quit Overthinking and Make It Happen, which is a wonderful book.
Thank you.
So congrats on this. But was this philosophy, just the title,
Yeah,
what it
totally.
means, was this philosophy something that you learned through life experiences, or were you already operating like this as a child? Like cavalier, shoot first, ask questions later.
Right. I think that my life circumstances led me to be dream first, details later. Like the details later part, you typically kind of hand over to parents and they deal with the details. And our parents got divorced when we were pretty young. And so it was just kind of like, all right, well, here's life. We're going to go get it, because what am I going to sit around here and wait for them to figure it out? So I think, you can take every circumstance and make it good or make it bad. And to me, I took the divorce and I made it a good thing for us. And I've always said to my mom, like, thank you for getting a divorce. I literally have told her that. She's like, what? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it made me entrepreneurial. Like, it forced it. It removed the comforts. It removed the plan for me. It made it more plan for yourself. And not because my mom was like out to lunch or something, but she was working 12-hour shifts all day long, all night long, like would leave at 7 a.m., 6 a.m. and come back at 7 p.m. So like all day, right? As a nurse, you do 12-hour shifts. So to me, it was just kind of this like crazy opportunity to just start doing things and not really wait for instruction, because there was no one to give me instruction. It was just like, all right, well, there's AOL startup. Like I can type in a recipe and go figure it out on the internet. I want to paint my mom's kitchen because it's too white. Let's paint it green. How do you do that? I don't know. Let's go to Home Depot. Like everything was just like, should we do that? Sure. And nobody was saying, don't do it. So it was this great big blessing and gift from her.
And she was like supportive of this.
She was kind of neutral, to be frank. Like I was always wanting more, as far as like, you did an amazing job. And she would come home and I'd like painted the entire living room brown or something. And she'd be like, it's nice. And then she'd go to bed. I'm like, I just painted your living room. Give me something. I want something. Like I need positive affirmation. And she's just like this little cute Mexican woman that's 5 feet tall and means business, but very understated, not like high expression.
Where did that desire to try new things, to experiment, to be creative, did that stem from one of your parents?
Well, okay, to go back even further, my dad is English, my mom is Mexican, and my dad is an engineer. His dad was an engineer. Hedley is my grandfather, inspired by my grandpa Hedley, and my aunt is an engineer. So basically my entire English side of my family is a freaking engineer. I mean, these guys are psychos. Like, it's Britannica Encyclopedia, Great Danes, Walker's Cookies, like legit hardcore maniacs. And then you've got the other side of my family, which is all Mexican. And it's like tamales and entrepreneurialism and figuring shit out and like first generation to go to college. And they all helped each other get to college. It was 6 kids. And they all like worked 8 million jobs to basically help each other get through school. And not through the parents, right? The parents were like, my grandma, my abuelita, she was like on a ranch. And so they just said, we're going to go to a nearby town called Tampico and we're going to get ourselves through school there. And that's what they did. So they just like decided and did it. And I think about that a lot because as somebody who's really proud of being Mexican or half Mexican, I'm like, damn, they had to do so much shit to even get to square zero. My square zero is like level 50 compared to their square zero.
Yeah.
Right? They had to figure out how to like get out of this ranch, how to go and find a new home somewhere else, how to pay for everybody to go to school. They knew nobody. They had no resources, right? So when I compare notes like that, I'm like, oh, wow, we're really, really quite lucky is one way of putting it, but we're just also just fortunate, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm constantly referencing that. And anytime shit gets hard, I'm like, it's not as hard as that was. So get your ass up. Mm-hmm. Like, are you going to be a victim about it or are you going to like do something about it?
Right, right.
And we all have the gift of life every day, right? So how do you get up and just go after it? And so that's just always been my MO. That's my spirit. It's like I watch them do it. And my Latin roots are very much a part of me. And then I have the like psycho side of my dad, which is just all about like read the rule book and read the handbook and like study it A to Z and what's the mechanical way to figure it out. And on the other side, it's just like, just do it. So there's a combo of the two.
It's funny because like I relate to that too, where just being spontaneous and try new ideas, even as a kid. I couldn't like focus in school and I was just like running around trying to be creative. And now I realize that there's also a set of rules for breaking the rules. Like dreaming first, details later.
Yeah, like as an adult, now that I have kids let's just say kids have forced me to have more structure than I've ever had. Because if I don't have structure for them, like all hell breaks loose. So that has allowed me to realize the benefits of the details. So I've like grown into this new philosophy of like, okay, dream first, definitely, but like details are okay. You don't have to get lost in the details. You don't have to die in the details, but it's okay to have details because your kids need them and your life will run a little easier if you know where you're headed. Mm-hmm. But that's been like 37 years to get to that, okay, I can do that. Literally.
And you're doing it well. Yeah. Very well. But before you were ever a founder, you were a cook.
Yeah.
And when you were a cook, in your head, you were like, I'm going to become a chef? Or what was sort of the trajectory in the kitchen for you? Where did you see yourself before there was ever a Hedley Bennett, before there was aprons?
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Well, I think every one of us has the skill and the gift and the ability to paint something in your head, or not in your head, but out there in the world, right? It's not in here. It's like out there. You got to like stick it out in the universe. And so when I was younger, I was like, it's going to be food. So it was like, boop, one bubble, food, cooking, community. Like I liked the union. Maybe it was because my parents got divorced and like we didn't have as much of that when I was little. But I had the giant family energy from when I went back home to Tampico and we'd have 20 people around the table. And I was like, I want that, right? Mm. And so it was like family, it was community, it was reunion, something around like food gathering. and it was me cooking. And so I sort of slapped those pieces together in my manifestation, if you will. And then I just kind of had this like snaky road to get to what that would look like, which included, okay, move to Mexico for a little bit. Oh, you know what? I love Mexico. I'm going to stay longer. How do I stay longer? I need to get a job. Okay, to get a job, I need to become a Mexican citizen. Okay, if I'm already going to become a Mexican citizen, I might as well go to school here. Let's do culinary school. So it was just sort of like opening doors and continuing to say yes to these wild opportunities that I was creating for myself to get me towards this goal of food. So it wasn't like a crystal clear vision. It was a blob of food. And that's okay. I think people shouldn't feel like they have to have every detail laid out. It's like you have a direction. Start heading in that direction, because when you start walking, you realize there's like all kinds of things I figured out that I didn't actually want to have a restaurant. I loved food and I loved cooking, but I didn't like the piece of the administration of running a restaurant. And somewhere around there, Hedley and Bennett was like born in my head. But if I hadn't been cooking professionally, I maybe wouldn't have gotten to that concept. Or maybe I would have gone in and raised money, and then I would have had a restaurant I didn't want.
And without the context of knowing the struggles and the issues that cooks face,
yes,
you wouldn't have had
exactly. I needed the context. That's right.
Like, okay, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Mexico City.
Yeah.
Did you start going to? Were you working in kitchens here in LA first, or did that start in Mexico City?
I was working as a personal chef. And I was like, when I was 16, 17, I was like a nanny. And then I was like, I'll cook for you guys too. And so it sort of went down this train of personal chef, helping people at home, coming in, cooking all their meals for the week, like having opportunities where I could go to the grocery store on someone else's dime and invent ideas while I'm walking the aisles, writing lists and buying used cookbooks on Amazon, like whatever I needed to do to get this was pre-Instagram.
Sure.
There was no social media to reference. You just had to go look at books and use your mind and use your experience. So I was just referencing my life and people around me and then like cobbling it together to get practice. And that was in LA. And then when I moved to Mexico, there were all kinds of like interesting little funny opportunities I found for myself. Like, oh, there was a little shop down the street and these cute old ladies would cook all day long. You'd pay 35 pesos to go in and basically get a warm meal, and you would get a appetizer and a main meal and a dessert for 35 pesos, which is the equivalent of like $2. And there were no options. That was it. You walked in, you paid, and then you got that. Almost like a soup kitchen. So I went to them and I was like, can you guys teach me how you cook? Because I really like your food. And they were like, pásale, mijita, métete, no te preocupes, yo te enseño. And I'd be in there just like hustling these dishes for all these people. And they showed me so many little tips and tricks because there's just a bunch of Mexican grandmas like with their own little side hustle. I mean, it was awesome. So that kind of stuff just constantly was teaching me new things.
How old were you when you landed in Mexico City?
18.
Okay.
Which is crazy because it's not the Mexico City it is today.
No.
This was Mexico City 2005, 2006. Yeah. I was like a pioneer.
You hear more English in Mexico City now than Spanish at this point.
I know. No, back then it was like, you're moving to Mexico City? Are you insane? What do you mean you're going to go to live in Mexico? Nobody came to visit. It was like I had moved to Bermuda. Like Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're never going to see her again.
Why the decision to go there?
Well, my mom, the truth is she didn't like a boyfriend I had here. And she was like, why don't you go to Mexico for a little bit? And her whole plan worked. I'm like, you sneaky, sneaky dog.
Yeah.
She shipped me off and I was happy to go. And then, of course, I was there and I thought, no, this is too good to be true. So I broke up with that boyfriend and I just was...
Mothers know best.
They really do. Damn it. Every time I'm like, oh, it's so annoying. You're right again and I don't want you to know this. Oh.
Ship them to the motherland.
Two things happen when you get older. You realize you're becoming your parents, and your parents are right a lot of the time. Don't show this to my mother. I'm like, oh my God.
Okay, so you're learning from Mexican grandmothers in Mexico City, but then you end up having all sorts of interesting jobs to survive as well.
Yes, I do.
Walk me through at least some of them.
Oh my God. I sound like such a crazy person when I say them out loud. I'm like, what was I doing? Okay, so here was, again, back to the blob of a dream, right? I needed to get myself through culinary school and I needed to pay my way through living in Mexico. My parents were like, you're insane. You can't live there by yourself forever. My mom said, go for a couple months. Here I was committing to living there for God knows how long, right? And so she cut me off with the little money she would give me. She was like, this is over. Like, if you're going to stay, you got to do this on your own. So, I had a new boyfriend and he knew a few people and he was like, there's these jobs in Mexico where you can basically be a booth babe, where you're like going and wearing a suit at a convention center and you're selling product and you're super friendly and nice. Like, why don't you try out for that? And they pay really well. So it was kind of like a model for a day.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, how hard can that be? And I went on a couple of auditions and I landed like both jobs. And so I had a little bit of like wind beneath my wings. I was like, I can do this. And so next thing you know, I'm like running all over Mexico City being this booth babe, basically a salesperson for the day that's like cute and in a nice outfit.
Was it always for the same product or different products?
Oh my
at the same
God.
time?
Antonio, I basically went to sales school by doing this job. I didn't even realize it. Like a lot of times when you're young, you're like, how the hell is this going to help me in the future? This was such a gift. It was the biggest gift because I was selling everything from like canola oil to bulletproof vehicles to bank services. I mean, you name it. They would be like, here's what we're talking about. You need to bring people into the booth and you need to sell them the dream of whatever it is that we're talking about. And I would get into it and I was excited to learn about what they were doing. And so imagine how you take that skill and then translate it to something you deeply love and believe in, like Hedley and Bennett. I'm like, nothing was ever going to stop me because it's actually something that like I created and I was making. So that was just really awesome experience. But if you cut to Ellen of 2006 or whatever, my friends were like, what are you doing? You're selling bulletproof vehicles in Mexico City by yourself and you're 19 years old while we're all going to college? Like,
sell me a bulletproof vehicle. What were you saying? Like, what are the features aside from
not getting
not
kidnapped?
penetrated by bullets?
I don't even know.
That's the only feature that you're selling.
No, it'd be like,
Bullets don't get in.
and these are 4-inch windows, like thickness. It's like, we don't have 2-inch thickness. We have 4-inch thickness. I'm like, these windows were like walls, like a bank vault.
Oh my God.
I know, it was so funny. But similar to how when I landed my first Hedley and Bennett order, I was just so, I was 18 years old. I'd lived with my mom my whole life. Like the fact that somebody was paying me money to show up and do a job for them was so crazy and amazing. I was just honored to be there. I'm like, this is incredible. You're giving me money. And I didn't take it for granted because I had to earn that money. It wasn't like I had, money in a bank account that I got to withdraw every month. This was money I earned and it felt really special.
What were like some of the lessons that you're now applying to Hedley and Bennett today?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, nobody likes to feel like a transaction. It's the worst. You want to feel like you matter because you do. And so whether you're selling bulletproof vehicles or canola oil, whatever it is that you're selling, you have to treat the person in front of you like they're a friend of yours and give a shit about what they need. And if they don't need what you're offering them, then they're not the right person that day. That doesn't mean you can't make them your friend.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times early on with Hedley and Bennett, I would meet somebody who I thought was super cool and they had zero interest in my aprons and I didn't care. I just wanted to be their friend. And so we maintained that relationship. And later on in their journey, when they needed something, they were like, oh, Ellen, here. Yeah. She can get that for me. Let me call her up. And then that relationship became community. And now community is this like hyped up thing. But really it's just it's like a like a web of people that that know you, that you guys can help each other and show up for each other. And so that became a really big kind of pillar for my life. And I got so many jobs in Mexico because of that, because I would show up at an audition and I would be friendly and kind and I would befriend them. And if they ever needed anything, they knew that I was going to show up and I was going to deliver, right? So it's like not treating people like a transaction. Like your word is gold. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you are going to, let's say you buy a book, like deliver the book with a bow. Just that little extra something that you didn't expect makes a world of a difference, right? It's like everybody loves Delta Airlines. Why do you love Delta Airlines? It's because they go above and beyond to make those little magical moments happen. It's like, okay, it's not just a headset, it's a Bose headset if you're going to sit in first class. Or if you're in the back, you're going to get free Wi-Fi through T-Mobile. Like there's just little details that impact you and you think, oh shit, that's cool.
Well, even here at Hedley and Bennett, you guys, the way you package the apron, I think there's even like a handwritten note.
Yeah,
right?
There's a note that's like the ampersand is always on top. You get a lifetime guarantee. Like there's just little things that become big when you're comparing apples to apples out in the world. And I think that's really important. Like if you sold an apple, don't just give an apple. Give a little bit more. Like go a little bit of an extra stretch and people are going to notice. So that's what I kind of feel like I picked up from there. And Mexico and Mexican energy, Latin energy in general, is very warm.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like I brought that warmth in spades to the world of Hedley and Bennett because I was like, this is going to feel not exclusive. It's like you're being welcomed into this tribe, into this party. And like, we're excited to have you. And whether you're a line cook or an executive chef, you both count and you both matter. And I don't care if you're ordering 1 apron or 50 aprons from us, like you both matter to our community. And so like that warmth and hospitality, I think is from that experience in Mexico.
In your book, you said a no can sometimes be a long-term yes.
Yes, exactly. And I have personally experienced that many times over. And I think a lot of people are so used to people treating them like a transaction that they become like a glass wall and they don't want to engage. And I love breaking that glass wall. Like, I'm just like, you don't like me? Watch me. We're going to become buds. And it's fun because, I don't know, I think about chefs sometimes, right? Like, they can be super hardcore and intense. But I'm actually hardcore and intense myself. I just happen to be cheery too. Right? And so finding something that you guys can both agree on is a great way to get somebody to like have a moment, right? You're like, oh, sweet, I love your car. Oh yeah, oh cool. It's like it's a point of like connection, right? And so I would always just like find something that we could chat about that they liked and that I liked, and then next thing you know, they're sharing a little more, and I'm like, oh my god, I love that, and then they're breaking down their wall, and then they want to chat. And they're friends with me. And I didn't try to sell them anything. I just wanted to get to know them. And so that's like just a really, really easy, wonderful way to make relationships with people. And I've always done that with Hedley and Bennett. And it's really important to me. Even to this day, like I'm not in the day-to-day of Hedley and Bennett. It's like I'm not back there handling logistics, but I still get Instagram messages and texts from chefs being like, I've got this deal that's coming up. Can you help me get aprons? I'm like, dude, totally. Let me connect you with this person. And I'm just like connecting them because I'm their friend and they're my friend and I'm going to help them. Yeah.
And I feel like that's the community aspect that you've built with Hedley and Bennett. It just feels like one giant family.
Yeah.
So you're off in Mexico City running around doing, selling bulletproof vehicles and all sorts of things.
And a lottery host. I remember that job too.
The lottery host?
Yeah, I would
on
like
TV.
announce the lottery numbers on television.
What was like the most memorable job that you had? Or at least moment?
That one was pretty memorable. The fact that I would go to school and then get out and be like, I got to go announce the lottery numbers. And this was just my regular 4:30 appointment. And I would go in for 20 minutes. I mean, it was so fast. It's like you go in, you finish up makeup, put on your outfit and walk out, point at the numbers, say a few things, and then leave. See you tomorrow. And it was so funny. And yeah. But yeah, like, when you're under 30, that is your time. Like, hello, people. Stop trying to have the whole world baked before you're 30. It's like your 20 to 30 zone is your time to grind, to hustle, to try shit, to learn, to whatever the hell you want to call it. I know there's like anti-hustle culture. If you want to be successful, you are not going to do that sitting at home from 9 to 5. That's just not going to happen. To become successful, you have to go above and beyond what anyone else is doing and run miles ahead of others to get there. That's just like the honest truth.
Yeah.
And so if you're willing to put in the time towards a goal that is worthwhile, that people need that service, they need that product, and you are excited and thrilled about it, like lean in, work 100 hours a week because you have the energy, you have the time, right? You don't have kids necessarily. So what are you? You're weighing your odds of like, oh, should I be going to the movies right now or should I be working on this dream I have? Work on your fucking dream. The movies can wait. Like I'm raising kids now in my 30s. I'm 37. Now I'm putting in the time of having a family and doing all these things. But when you're young, like lean in.
You don't have those
responsibilities. Right. And you know what? There's people out there, God bless them, that they do have kids and they're still figuring it out. So like, you know, are you willing to go after it or not? That's what it comes down to.
Was there something about Mexico City specifically that taught you in ways that being in LA wouldn't have?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think LA, while it's very entrepreneurial, there's a laid backness about it and there's like a separation, right? Everybody is like in their own little silo. And in Mexico, you have this energy like New York City. It's condensed. So you walk out and you feel the vibration in the air. You're just like, shit is happening. And I think that was ammunition to me. And everything I did, everything on public transportation. I went on subways and trains and buses and just the hustle of getting out of your house and getting to that thing on time. That, you know, I used to commute an hour and a half via subway and then a 10-minute walk to get to school.
Wow.
There and back. That's 3.5 hours a day. Like, Antonio, that was serious on top of all the crazy shit I was doing. And so I don't know, that energy was really great. And I think when you meet people from New York, they have that sparkle. They're just like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's go over here. Let's go over there. And, you know, I don't know. Some people call it anxiety. I call it just drive.
Same. Yeah. What brought you back to LA? If it was going so well, or, you know, I don't know how well it was going, but it sounds like you're living one giant adventure in Mexico City and the energy's there. The people are beautiful. What brings you back to LA?
I had this moment in my journey where I was 22 and you could say on paper, everything seemed to be going well. Obviously behind the scenes, there's always shit storms, right? There's always things that aren't going well. But generally speaking, things were going better than not. And I looked around at my life and I felt content and I felt satisfied. And I was like, really? Is that it? Like at 22, you're done? Like this is it? You're just gonna like live your happy life and put up your white picket fence and call it a day? Like, really? And I just kind of had this talk with myself and I said, no, that's not it. And it was really scary because obviously I'd worked really hard to build all this stuff and create a career and graduate school and have a bunch of jobs, and it was going really, really well. And I broke up with my boyfriend. I had this really great house. I sold everything. I got rid of it. I basically deleted my life that I had built for 4 years in Mexico. Deleted my Nextel at the time. Deleted my BlackBerry. Like canceled my cell phone. Canceled the gas bill. Like everything. I just sort of wiped it clean. But it was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had because I looked around and realized that I got to take all those experiences with me. And even though I didn't actually have anything physical that I was walking away with, I had this tremendous change internally. And it went from being like this little girl that showed up to Mexico not knowing what to do to like a woman with a dream and a career and a path and a drive. And I had all this confidence that, I call it in my book, like my confidence belt. Like I had all these notches of confidence that I had shown up and said, I'm going to do that. And then I did it. Mm-hmm. And all the shitstorms too, all the times that things didn't go right. And then I figured out how to get up again. And so I was like, wow, this is like a good crash course on life. And things aren't the thing that makes you. You're the thing that makes you. So if I can do it here, I can do it again. And I think that that's like something that sometimes people never figure out, or they figure out much later on in life. That's not the materialistic things that make you whole. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I sold it all and I moved back home with my mom, and I moved into her house and literally started from the ground up. And I went and started working at Providence not too long after, and I was making like $11 an hour there. So it was like from here to get to the next phase. And safety and comfort is great, but like not when you're 20 years old and you have the whole world ahead of you. And frankly, I know plenty of people that even in 40, 50, 60, they're like, hey, it's time for a change. And like, good on you for being willing to experience the struggle of change, because change is scary and nobody likes it. Mm-hmm. But every single time I've done something like that, tremendous benefit comes from it. Like great things do not happen when you're just sitting satisfied. Great things happen when you shift and you go into the discomfort of like the unknown and the next chapter towards this goal you're trying to get to.
How do you harness that sort of attitude to have the optimism to just keep going? And it is scary. It is scary to change.
Scary.
You're also leaving a whole life that you knew, and you built a community and you built structure around, and then to let it all go and start from the bottom again. Yeah. Which is also like the journey of a founder and entrepreneurship, right? It's a lot of up and downs. It's trial and error. You have to be okay with change, pivoting, failure.
Yeah.
And just move on and like not dwell too much on that change.
Yeah.
Was there someone or something that was kind of teaching you how to harness that?
I think my mom has been a huge anchor for me. And, her saying, I don't know if that boyfriend is good for you. Like she's always been like this little bit of a buffer in the direction towards a prosperous life, if you will. Mm. And I think she just wanted to make sure that I was always going to be okay, and that no matter what, I was going to be a independent woman that could support myself. So that was really important to her. So I think the push to go was her. The push to come back there was a little bit of a conversation I had with her where I was like, I'm doing well here. Everything's going great. And she's like, okay. And what about your culinary career? Like, what are you going to do with that now? Because if I stayed in Mexico, I wasn't necessarily going to do anything with that. I was just continuing to do modeling and acting and all these things that had helped me be, financially stable to get myself through that career, through the culinary school. And so I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I probably want to come home and actually give it a go. And she's like, you can live with me. And, I also have an uncle who's no longer with us, but Uncle Ted, which I talk about a lot in my book. We're like, my mom and my Uncle Ted were my anchors. They were people that just believed in me and said, just try it. Just keep going. Like, you can figure it out. Mm. And so that is important. It's important to have people, even if it's one or two. That's
support
it.
Structure.
Yeah, just like people that are not just shitting on you, but are actually saying, you can do that. Yeah. And it's as simple as being vulnerable with them about your dream and them just cheering you on along the way. That's really all I was getting from them. They weren't paying for me to do it. They were simply saying, you can. Mm. And that went a really, really long way. And things I learned by living in Mexico alone were, the people you surround yourself is incredibly critical. So I did a great process of just like deleting and editing constantly the ones around me and finding people that had dreams and aspirations and not just like party vibes or energy to go hang out or go have coffee in the middle of the day. Like that didn't help me get to where I was trying to go. And so it was a little bit of just like constant grooming to get me to stay on track and stay focused. Now, does that mean I never wanted to like go to a party? Of course I did, but it's just, I don't know. I just kind of like constantly pulled my blinders on and ignored this stuff, and that kept me on track.
Mm-hmm. So you're back in LA. You end up working at one of the best restaurants in Los Angeles, Providence.
Yeah.
Did you just like knock on their door and walk in and
Literally
just hustle Cimarusti until he gave you a job, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was like going to an audition in Mexico. I had my address and I knew the time I needed to go. And someone said, you go between 2 and 4 and go in through the back door and just talk to them. And I was like, okay, well, I do that all the time, so I can do that. And that was it. It was a girl who gave me a list of the top 10 restaurants, and Providence happened to be on there. And Baco Mercat was also on there. And so I walked into AOC and Mozza and all these restaurants, and I got no's from all of them. But Providence said yes, and Baco said yes. And so I went and I tried out. And I don't know, it's just like there's this beauty to old schoolness of just showing up. And I talk about it a lot in the book, like look somebody in the white of the eye. Just be like, hi, I'm Ellen. I want to come here. I want to try out. Can I do it? I'll work for free. Let me show you my work ethic. Like, let me just do it. And that commitment to just showing up and not being afraid to do it for free for a minute, like, it got me a lot of opportunities. And then from there, once I was in, I was like, I'm not about to leave. This is awesome. And I love it. It was like the little fondita in Mexico with the grandmas on steroids. Right? It's like Providence. Hello. And it was awesome. And I knew nothing. I thought I was a great cook. Oh my God. Like I was beyond below the bottom of the barrel.
This is big leagues.
This is the fucking big leagues.
Yeah.
Like I was
this is Super Bowl. Yeah.
I was an infant toddler embryo compared to anyone in that kitchen. And it was scary as shit. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I cried often. And it was totally amazing because, man, it was like round 2 to the bulletproof vehicles. Like I had to learn speed and work ethic and timeliness and managing just the way you flow and being organized. And it's like the engineer piece of my dad really had to click in. And I hadn't really done that when I was in Mexico. It was a different muscle.
Yeah. So you're surrounded by some of the best cooks.
Geniuses.
Yeah. One of the best chefs in LA. For how long?
It was about 2 years.
2 years in the kitchens. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was 2 years and change. And in that time, I was working simultaneously for Baco Mercat because they both gave me a job. And I was like, well, I'll work half and half. Yeah. So on one side, I was like working grill. And at the other one, I was picking herbs. And so it was like finesse and detail and then mass volume simultaneously, which was so my speed. It was perfect to get like fast and slow at the same time because I learned energy and speed, but also detail and attention to detail, which Cimarusti is just, his giant hands, like picking a tiny little borage leaf with the tip of his massive fingers. And you're just like, oh my God, it's going to break.
And before you come up with the idea for Hedley Bennett, which was while you're working at these kitchens, what's going through your head of like where your trajectory's heading? Or are you just like so in it day by day? You're just like, I'm just here, a cook at these 2 restaurants. Or was there like an alternative sort of roadmap?
Yeah. I think of it as like, it was like a highway that was really wide headed towards food. And then over time, it was like, it started to get skinnier and skinnier as I became, but there was depth in there. Like I was driving the car down the road. So it was like the perspective was getting skinnier and skinnier. And so it was finally, once Hedley Bennett became Hedley Bennett, it was like a 4-lane freeway. Whereas at this stage, it was like a giant, huge, massive bunch of lanes. Like I was just like food in all the ways. Food cooking, food eating, food restaurants, food this, food that, food events. And I did all the food I could do. And in that, I was like, oh, but these uniforms are shitty. And look at how people are feeling. And I was just kind of like cobbling together concepts. And it smashed itself together in my head. And there was this guy in the kitchen that worked with me. And he's like, yeah, I hate these aprons. I was like, me too. And then I was like, we should make better chef coats. And turns out chef coats are really hard to make and aprons are easier. So it started with the apron and then it went from there. But it was not fully baked. I was just like, I want to be, you know, Nike of the culinary world. I like this idea of creating something that means something to people. Period, full stop. And then like the rest would come.
These aprons that you're using in the kitchens, they were just like falling apart. Like describe them to me.
Paper thin. You could see through them. They were like ancient. They were being blasted with bleach every day by the cleaning services. They felt terrible. The neck was like a shoestring around your neck pulling at it. It was basically you had a sheet with a string and you were going in and working 13-hour shifts, getting your ass handed to you. And everybody on top of that was wearing bags of chef coats, right? These things were like gigantic chef coats. And you had a cap on your head. I mean, we looked terrible and we felt terrible. And you were in a really intense environment. So when you combine all that together, it's like not awesome. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to fix it. I was like, there's something here. We can make it better. And that was it. It was just this like little seed of an idea. And a lot of great things come from a seed of an idea of one individual. It's not nations. It's people. It's like singular people that say, I'm going to do this. And then other people latch on to that concept. But I always think about that. I'm like, it's just one concept, one individual that says, yes, I'm going to try. And that's where it started.
In the first apron.
Yeah.
Like the iconic Hedley and Bennett apron. What did the first one look like?
I didn't even know how to sew. I mean, literally didn't know how to sew.
Like, how do you go from like, all right, I want to create an apron to then just making the very first one?
Yeah. It was a journey for sure. So I got the idea and then Joseph Centeno at Baca was like, there's some chick. She's going to make us some aprons. Do you want to buy one from me that I'm going to buy from her? And I thought, holy shit, did he read my mind? Have you been like seeing inside my head? Like, how did you even know? So I convinced him to give me this order. And then that was it. I like had the order. So I knew I had to deliver. And I ran around LA, like talking to different chefs, not different, just like different people who knew other people. And I was like, do you know somebody that sews? Do you know somebody that sews? Who knows somebody that fucking sews? Anybody, please. And I found some guy, and then he was like a shoe cobbler, and he knew a guy that had made him a leather apron. And I was like, okay, fine. Let me talk to him. So that guy made us our first order. And I basically went and bought a roll of fabric and handed it to him. And I was like, 40 aprons. Let's figure out the size and the color. And then I worked with Centeno. But it was like so makeshift. I mean, they were terrible. Antonio, these aprons were so bad. But they were so much better than the status quo. So anything was an improvement from the original. But like it was like this was the original, and then this is us. We're now like up there somewhere, and back there it was like that.
So Joseph had the first.
Yeah, Joseph basically funded. Yeah, he was the seed money for Hedley and Bennett. Yeah, his $1,200 or whatever he paid for those first aprons was the seed money for this company.
How did you feel when you delivered that first batch?
Oh my God, you thought I just won the lottery. I was like, I could do anything, and they were so crisp, stacked up like double mint gum. You know when you get double mint gum and they're so perfect, just like that. They were so glorious and crisp and ironed and fresh. And the cooks put them on and you could just see their face light up. And I thought, holy shit, there is something here. Like, this is real. This is not me just like hallucinating this concept into existence. Like, these guys are actually looking and feeling better. Sure enough, 24 hours later, he would call me into his office and like tell me like, they're not working, Bennett. And I was like, oh my God. right? So I got yanked out of the clouds really fast, but I was on my way. And I didn't care because that feeling I got of endorphins and excitement was irreplaceable. I equate it to like a rock star being on stage and performing and being like, I want that feeling again. I wanted that feeling again and again. I wanted the feeling of there's this person, they feel better, they're wearing this, they now can go and execute. And it was this like surge of something.
Or like a comedian. They go up on stage.
And they hit the joke. And they're like, I want that. Yeah. I want it. And their whole life revolves around getting more beats. And I just wanted that. I wanted more beats where I could hit more chefs and get that feeling. It was like really exciting. Like truly just such a beautiful moment. It's like when I had my kids, like seeing my babies, seeing that first apron be delivered was like, so it sounds so stupid because you're like, you're talking about a fucking apron. I'm like, yes, I'm talking about a fucking apron. But it was more than an apron. It was this like dream and hope and aspiration for others to, I don't know, show up in the world in a way that's different and mean something.
And that kicked off a new business. That kicked off a journey
12 years of psychoticness.
Of iterations too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to know a little bit of what that design process looks like now when you're iterating a product from start to finish, or from what didn't work, what did work. So walk me through, like, all right, now you're like the big league, right? You got the team, you got the design team. What does that process look like today?
I mean, at its core, it's really similar. There's a chef involved always. There's our team. There's me. There's Casey, my husband. He now works here, and he leads a lot of product. And it's about function first and foremost. So we're like, okay, what do you need? What do you want? What's working? What's not working? And how do we take the base model and improve the crap out of it through function? Then we make it look good. So it's always function first. And I think that's so freaking important because you've just seen it through the era of Instagram. It's like, let's make it look cute. Let's make that coffee shop look matcha vibes.
Yeah.
And then the coffee shop's dead 2 years later because it's just like replaceable, right? So how do you become irreplaceable? It needs to have some timelessness. It needs to have good quality, longevity. It needs to have a purpose and a why and like solve a freaking problem. So like when we created our kitchen tools, right, that I like have right here, this was like 5 years in the making in my head, 2 years in real life, and constant iteration of just, we didn't just go private label something, right, where you take a brand and just slap your name on it.
Sure.
We literally had industrial designers sketching out and printing 3D models that we would take to a restaurant, put it in the kitchen, have them use and test it and feel it in their hand. Like, this ladle is the size of this ladle because the Sarahs from Kismet like worked in restaurants where they used woks, and they were like, we've always wanted bigger ladles and they should be wider and the edges should be curved so that when you pour it, it doesn't drip, but it does like a perfect, graceful like stream. It's the tiniest little details, but that's what makes a great product, right? It's the details. So that's how we developed it. And that's how we develop anything. Like our chef's knife.
These are beautiful.
Right? Like Josiah Citrine and his sous chefs were sitting there at the counter with me being like, every good knife I've seen in Japan from these little makers rounds the corners. Rounding the corners, you don't get the callus. It's a lot softer. And I'm like, that's brilliant. We should put that on all of our knives. But this is from one bespoke knife that he saw in Japan. So it's like really showing up and listening to your community. They give you all the answers. They tell you everything you need to know about what's wrong. It's when brands and companies sit in a boardroom somewhere and like try to boil the ocean with no boots on the ground knowledge. And this is all about the boots on the ground. And the boots on the ground are our chefs. Like they are our athletes and they help us develop every single tool. So now that you have hundreds of thousands of home cooks, like using our tongs, they're like, these are amazing. They don't know why they're amazing, but they're amazing because we nerded out with chefs over and over and over again so that it's pro grade, but also beautiful.
Well, the beautiful thing about this is that you're consulting with the experts that know these products.
And that are
the chefs,
using it every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
And they're putting a lot of miles on them.
Oh my God.
So this thing is going to go a long way for a home cook.
Yes.
And
I mean, it's going to become like an heirloom.
Yeah.
Because if this survives in a professional kitchen, Jesus, you're going to take this to the grave.
So all the products start with the chef.
Always.
With the knowledge of the restaurant and the chef. Yeah. And then it trickles down to the home cook?
It trickles down to design. It starts with function and then it moves into make it beautiful, right? So it's like the tools are really functional. They're right angle, the color, there's a gold
beautiful
bottom that matches the rivet from here. But it started with what's the right length? How thick should they be? It's a precision tool. How should it hold? Most kitchen tools are really long. They're huge. They're like this big. Katiana Hong from Yangban was like, why the fuck are tools so long? They need to be shorter. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I literally walked out of there. I was like, all tools, shorten them by 2 inches. Like it's just these little moments that you pick up and it changes all of it. So that's how we design. And we will always design that way because it's real and it's for the people that cook.
At what point did you leave the restaurant world and start Hedley Bennett full time?
Well, I was chiseling down my days at Providence and Baco until I was down to like 2 days a week, and I finally had to cut the ripcord because I'm just buried in orders and I'm going to events and I'm running to New York City on the weekend to sell aprons. Like I need to do this. So it took, 2.5+ years, but eventually I quit finally, and Simarusi gave me my blessing and I went out into the world and I had my own little office, the 400 square foot office that you came to forever ago. I had that before I quit Providence. I had gotten it, and I actually got my aunt, my tia, Delta. She co-signed the lease because they wouldn't give it to me. It was $400 a month, and they would not give me that lease because they were like, well, you've lived in Mexico, you have no credit, what are you going to do? And so she signed the lease and I got my first little office.
I didn't know you were getting into kitchen utensils. This is new, right?
Yeah, this is like
brand new.
Brand new. Yeah, this one's been a long time.
I saw the knives. The knives came first.
Yep.
Right?
These launched in December.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they're brand new.
Okay.
You could basically take your kitchen drawer, empty it out, and replace with this, and you need nothing else. It's like zester, it's ladle, it's spatula, tongs, all the things. But nothing extra. It's the core. Core essentials.
I'm not just deviating a little bit, but are you doing pots and pans as well?
We have a lot in the works.
Okay.
But it's still, I'll use the word essentials over and over again. We're not trying to make tchotchkes. We're trying to basically be a place where everyone comes to get the timeless needs.
One thing I was thinking about as you were talking about being in the kitchen, noticing the tiny flaws in these aprons, noticing how people are feeling. And that is a unique art in itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes entrepreneurs different.
Yeah.
Is having those receptors of just observing.
Totally. No, you're right.
Observing and just being sensitive to what is happening around you, and just constantly noticing all right, that's off. How would you describe that creative state of observance when it comes to Hedley Bennett?
Creative state of observance. Oh my God. You always coming in hot with the deep questions, Antonio. Yeah. I love it. I'm like, creative state of observance. Wow. That's profound. I think in so many ways it boils down to being able to be where you are when you're doing what you're doing. I've worked really hard to be present in life. That's through any myriad of ways, whether it's trying not to drink, not doing drugs, taking a ton of vitamins, sleeping enough, doing yoga, meditation, whatever, all of the above. I just feel whatever you can do to be here as much as you can, then you can actually experience life around you. And these add-ons that we sometimes do, and no judgments, right? But I feel for me in particular, I just want to soak up what's happening around me. And the more present I am, the more I can catch those moments. And the more I can be like, oh, that just happened. And I'm not just like letting life sail by, but I'm actually like experiencing, touching life every day. It's really important to me. Like maybe it's because like my mom raised me that way, but I don't know. We've always, every day, she just was always like, what are you going to do today? Like, how are you going to make the best of today? And instilled this like drumbeat of figure shit out constantly. And so between being hyper aware, by being present, by having like my bodily situation in order, it has helped me be able to show up in the best way. Think about it. If you're not sleeping enough, you're like half baked, right?
Yeah.
You're sort of like, oh, what the fuck's happening? Or if you're not taking care of yourself, like we are the engine. So if our engine is good, then we can do other things. So I've always prioritized my personal welfare, if you will, like my physical welfare as a high priority I prioritize my priority. There you go. I just said it. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's just important.
And it kind of reminds me of the Creative Act. What's his name?
Oh my God. You literally, I got the picture. You said it. It's the guy, the gray book, the one that sits.
Rick
yes.
Rubin.
Thank you.
Rick
yes,
Rubin.
Exactly.
He said something like, I'm going to butcher it, but he says being present allows you to be more sensitive to ideas.
Yes.
Because ideas, they're just floating in the air.
Everywhere. Every
They're
day,
everywhere.
a Hedley and Bennett boat could sail in front of somebody. It's up to you to be aware enough to catch it and say, I want to do that. And so I think like having those sensitivities is incredibly important. And I still use it every day, because if I'm having a conversation with a customer and something went wrong, I'm like, what went wrong? How did it work? What did you do? What could we do better? Like, I go into engineering solve it mode, and then I take that feedback back and I send it to our CEO, and I'm like, hey, this happened. Check it out. What's going on here? Let's look into that. And I'm like figuring it out, but it's because the awareness is there.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to be numb. I love Radiohead, but like, no, not into being numb. I want to be as aware as humanly fucking possible so I can pick shit up and do something with it.
Are you familiar with the red car theory?
No. What's that?
The red car theory is on your drive over here.
Yeah.
Did you see a red car on this? Like, how many red cars did you see driving over here?
I don't remember. I don't think I did.
But you probably there was a red car?
Yeah.
And on your next drive,
Yeah.
just be thinking about the red car, and you're going to start to see them
All over
and
the
be
place.
more aware of like how many red cars are on the street. So it's just making you more aware of little details. Otherwise, you're like, I guess I saw a red car.
Yeah.
But you don't really think about it.
Yeah. Interesting.
But when you open your eyes and are more aware, you start to notice the patterns, its colors, all the different details.
That's so true. I think also there's like, it's like awareness and curiosity. Being curious about how something works and why it works and what's in it, and being willing to not know. That's another big thing, I think, as an entrepreneur. I'm just willing to say I don't know all the time. I'm like, how do you do that? What do you do? What does it do? How does it work? Tell me about it. Oh, that's cool. What's the recipe? How did you make that? And by if you say, I already know everything there is to know, that's like you put up a giant wall to learn. So you got to remove that immediately. Like, one, be aware. Take care of your shit so that you can be like alive every day and soak up what's going on around you. Two, be willing to learn. Because if you're willing to learn, you can basically accomplish anything. You can pick up a book. You can go do a community college class. You can read something. And my desire and willingness to learn has helped me figure out so much stuff that I didn't know. I didn't know how to do videos. Now I like make videos for Instagram all the time. And that started because I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try. And next thing you know, I'm like figuring it out. So it's just, they're little tiny nuggets.
Yeah.
And if you anchor your whole life around them, so much goodness comes from it.
At what point did you make the jump from wholesale, working directly with restaurants, to then opening an e-commerce business for home cooks, for the rest of the world to be able to buy these aprons? Like, what was the the inception of that moment?
Yeah. We did aprons for professionals for like 8+ years, which is a long time. That's a really long time to just be dedicated to one product and do it over and over again. In that journey, we decided to do a lot of collaborations, and the collaborations led to this other world, which was the home consumer. And I was like, oh, there's all these people out there that also cook. They're not pros, but they cook. Okay. Like, put that behind my left earlobe, right? And just like, we'll come back to that. And I didn't really have the resources, the supply chain, the anything. And then COVID happened. And COVID was really the catalyst for change, because we couldn't continue to do what we had been doing forever, because that industry was being rocked so hard and we had to pivot. And back in the day, it was like, show up at the restaurant, bring samples, do it in person. If you don't do it in person, they won't see you. Now nobody could be in person. So everything was digital like that. So we pivoted. We did this crazy face mask initiative that, was a buy one, donate one model. And all of a sudden I had to look at our entire company and say, what do we not need to do anymore? Because we either are going to sink or die here if we don't change. So I had to delete so much complexity that the company had. And I realized that I couldn't scale the company because I kept doing little, tiny, super hardcore custom for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I never had time or resources to make things like this because I was too busy making like flamingo embossed aprons for a hotel somewhere, right?
Sure.
And they needed 3 and we were doing it. It's like that was not actually efficient or effective. So we deleted all that complexity. We went through our inventory. We said, we're not going to have so many SKUs. We cut down on stuff and we went deeper into less. And these little tweaks really helped us kind of push ourselves to this next chapter where we went from being a scrappy mom and pop business to really like a corporation, but with soul. And not like losing ourselves along the way. But, the more resources you have as a company, the bigger you get, actually, the more impact you can have. And so, when people are like, oh, don't sell out, it's like, actually, if you can make it past that abyss from like tiny to bigger and you do it with integrity and with soul, like the world is your oyster. This is where you can make impact. Because over here, when you're tiny, it's just like the 20 people you know. Over here, it's the millions. And so I was like, I had to make this choice. And I will never forget this conversation I had with Casey, my husband, where he was like, you can be the tiny, bespoke apron lady, or you can become the one that does it for everyone and have huge impact and donate to all the organizations you want to and like tackle the whole kitchen. Like, what do you want to do? Which path are you going to take? And I was like, I want to do the latter. And he's like, well, that's called scale. So we have to go above and beyond to figure that out. So we had to stop acting like a mom and pop to become this next chapter. And that was scary and required me letting go of a lot of things and hiring a CEO and doing stuff that to this day is incredibly painful and hard behind the scenes because it's not exactly how you want it all to be. But it was the way that we've made things like this happen. Like I knew that if I wanted to take over the whole kitchen, I needed help. And so between COVID pushing us to do all this stuff and us just rearranging the way our perspective was on business, we shifted. And it was like a big shift. And it was a 4-year shift. And it was the whole COVID time.
It was also a time where everyone was cooking at home too.
Yep.
And that became a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I think your products and your aprons were a way for people to kind of still feel connected to chefs and restaurants.
Yeah.
In some way, or at least feel, proud to be cooking, even though you're at home. To go from that bespoke mom and pop, working with restaurants directly, what are the steps to scale to a mainstream audience?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, it's doing things with like a repetition model, right? So you can't just do bespoke every time. It just doesn't work. Like in order to scale, you have to do like twice as much in half the time over and over and over and over again, right? And so it was like, okay, if we used to spend so much time making one order of apron, like what can we do to simplify that order? how do we take all the materials that we use? If we used 100 materials, how do we trim it down to like 10 and then do garment dye programs and figure out ways to just improve our own internal processes? And I think COVID was the perfect era to do this because no one was judging. Everyone was just in survival mode. So if you had to cut lines from your program, like if you needed to cut aprons, nobody was like, what? They were like, oh, you had a supply chain issue too? Great, no problem. What else have you got? Because everyone was running out of flour, eggs, water, whatever. So that allowed us to go from this many styles to this many styles. And with simplicity, we were able to do more because we had more time. But when you're trying to keep like 100 different little fires burning, you can't do anything effectively. And so I went from saying yes to everything to like no to a lot and tightening up. And then we did something that I love to share. We cut the long tail. And that means like if you took all your SKUs and you stretched it out by like what's making the most amount of money to what's making the least amount of money, it'll be like a curve like this. And it's like 20% is making 80% of the money. And then the rest of it is just like selling 2, selling 1, selling 1, selling 1, selling 5. Cut the long tail, right? Cut all those SKUs that are absorbing your money, your inventory, your energy, your time, your space, your building, and focus on the shit that's working. And you're going to make more money, right? You're not going to have all your assets tied up in all this stuff. And so that really helped us like focus. And then in there, we identified all these things that had been successful that we couldn't even see because we were so busy doing so much. It's like, oh, smocks, they're amazing. You know what? Maybe we make a few more colors. Now it's become like a tremendous part of our entire line.
Which ones are the smocks?
Smocks are the like wide strap, cross back that are a lot more feminine, right?
Yeah.
Hedley Bennett has always been so like gender neutral and very much chefy. This was more homey. And it turns out people loved them. So we're like, let's do a couple more colors in that and not make more of the chefy one. And so it's just like awareness by giving ourselves time and space and deleting the things that we shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
So it's letting go. It's like back to my Mexico thing. I had to let go of stuff to move to this next stage. But if you're just holding on to shit constantly, you can't see what's in front of you because you're literally walking around like a bag lady with all your like ideas that are stuck with you. It's like, no, leave those ideas behind and like move on to the next chapter. So that's what we did. And it was brutal. Brutal with a capital B. It's still brutal. But it's evolution. Like the brutality is part of it.
Yeah. For someone who comes to you and they're like, I want to start an e-commerce business, you're a huge inspiration.
Yeah.
How would you describe the industry now?
Well, I would say, for one, the expectation now for the pace of growth as opposed to when I started is very different. It's kind of gone full circle. Back in the day, I started when Warby Parker was a thing. And it was like, every day you saw announcements of, I raised $100 million, $75 million, $50 million. I didn't do any of that, right? And so for a long time, I had no partners. And then, you know, as we grew steadily and little by little. And we were like a little turtle that could. And now we're a bigger player. But we, at our core, we're always this like little turtle mentality. And didn't spend more than we made and like reinvested every penny back into the company kind of thing. So to me, that's the way you grow a business. Like, don't try and get the overnight hit because it's like this. But if you're building something that really has some long time legacy, you know, value, like you got to play the long game because the good shit takes a long time to build. You think about brands like Le Creuset or Vans or Birkenstock, like they've been around for fucking 100+ years. Like they've been around for a while. They've learned, they've made mistakes, they've adapted, they've pivoted. That's what I want to be. I want to be a heritage brand. So when someone comes along and says, I want to have an e-com business, it's like, okay, well, zoom out. What are you actually trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And like, do you want to be big or do you want to be little? If you want to be big, okay, that's like a separate path. And your soul is going to get crushed a little bit along the way. Is that what you want to do? Or do you want it to be like a lifestyle business where you run the company and you fund your life through it? Like, which path do you want to take? So it's a personal question more than the business first. How do you want to set your world up to be with that business? And then you get to choose. If you raise money, if you bootstrap it, if you go out and I did a small friends and family round in 2020 where I brought in chefs and people that I really thought were brilliant and smart. And then we got partners. And so it was like a new chapter with some co-pilots and a little bit of money so that I could do all of this stuff. But I was like, I will never raise money to fund losses. I will only raise a little bit of money to fund future growth. And that was like a big distinction for me. So, you can't just like continually grow a company that doesn't make money. That game is over.
It's over. Yeah.
And I don't know if it'll come back. I hope it doesn't because it just doesn't make any sense. You need to make money to have a business. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Yeah. So
I'm more interested.
like e-com is hard now.
Yeah.
If you want me to like be like brutally blunt, it costs a lot of money. And you throw a lot of money at Meta. And it's a complicated world out there where you're fighting for your slot. And so it's kind of like, how do you show up in the world in a really authentic way? I believe it's still grassroots. I still truly believe like you have to have an anchored community. You need to have a way to show up IRL and talk to people.
Well, I think like it goes back to, again, a no can sometimes be a long-term yes. I think even the trajectory of your business
is a long-term yes.
So much competition.
Totally.
I mean, I've seen a lot of copycats to the Hedley Bennett.
Oh my
apron.
God, totally.
Like left and right.
Yeah.
But what you've built is that that trust.
Yeah.
That long-term trust.
Yeah.
Of the people that matter saying yes to it. Chefs being ambassadors for the business. And I think it's only setting you up for success now, where you could start launching all these new products because you're a veteran in the game,
right?
And you have that long-term trajectory of people joining the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So I feel like you kind of have to put in the work to build the story and build the trust first.
Yeah, yeah, and mean something, stand for something, because that's going to be the difference between going on Amazon and just like buying a random product that you don't really care who made it. You're just like, I need this. And believing in something. That believing in something is the brand, right?
Sure.
So the brand is the make or break. Obviously, you need to have a product that works and that people love and that has quality, but like the brand has to have some soul to it, or else it's just like, on to the next one. You can just buy the Target version.
How would you describe the psychology of a founder? That's sometimes what I think about often because I'm constantly self-analyzing myself.
Our own insanity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I relate to founders more than anyone else.
Totally.
Or creative people.
Yeah.
Because they're just wired a little differently.
Yeah.
And usually it's they have a gift at a detriment of something else.
Oh, totally.
And
I feel like we all have like a little bit of Asperger's.
ADHD, a little bit of autism. Like it's something. What would you say is the push and pull for you?
Oh, so many push and pulls, but I feel like my push is like my relentless drive. I feel like, I mean, God, you can't kill me. Like
nothing's gonna stop you.
Like a cockroach. Like you just can't squish
a bulletproof
me. Yeah, a bulletproof vehicle. I am a bulletproof vehicle from Mexico City. No, there's just I have a very high tolerance for pain and just like a resistance and resilience for continuing to try again and again. I'm not gonna give up easily. Whether it's like running a marathon or taking 5 years to conceptualize something and then like making it come to life, the amount of setbacks that I'm willing to endure to get to my goal is massive. And I think that that's like a specific level of crazy that I have that is a blessing and a curse, right? Because I just like won't give up. I think, what am I working on? For a long time, I was so narrow-minded about that. It's like my whole world was like this goal in front of me, that everything and everyone around me just kind of like blurred out. Like I could just see what was in front. So that made me less aware of people and things and thoughts and feelings. And I just like wanted to accomplish the thing. And I lost friendships and relationships along the way because of that. And I have had to learn in really, really hard fashions that lesson. And now as like a mom and somebody that is, I've slowed down in a different way. It's like I've slowed down just enough to actually see what's around me and be aware. It's like I'm all hyped up about awareness, and yet I wasn't aware of like my own mother sometimes that would call me and I'd be like, what do you need? I gotta go. I'm so busy. This person that like did everything to make me have the life that I have, I wouldn't take the time to talk to her. Like I shifted something in my world and I was like, you are there, you matter, and I see you. Or like my sister or friends, or it was just about like changing something in me, being like, these people are important. And that's like everybody. There's all these people that matter and that have helped me, that I'm gonna help them. And it's that shift that has been a big part of my growing up, if you will. Like I need to take the time to slow down, to be like, hey, man at the front door that's helping me with these bags, I see Bruce is on your title. Thanks for helping me, Bruce. Have a great day. Like that little tiny moment and gesture is so important. A housekeeper, a security guard, like just be aware of the people around you. It's fucking important, and they are important. And if my entire brand is built around that, like I need to be doing that every day and practicing what I preach. And I never did it in a mean way. I just was so busy running.
Consumed by the business.
Consumed that I didn't think about that. And I think I upset people without even meaning to. And I realized that. And I was like, shit, you can't do that. So that's been a big kind of just like change. Because I think for a long time I was a single, like solo dog building this mission. And now I'm not. And sometimes I still act like a solo dog out in the world. And I have to like get people on the boat with me, or else I can't do what I'm doing. Because nobody does anything alone. That's impossible. Yeah.
And what are the challenges that you're facing now with the company?
I mean, I think that with a business, when it's founder led versus like professionally led, it's a different vibe, right? Like it's professionalized, and I wanted that. Like I said, I'm not going to be the CEO. I'm going to be the chief brand officer. I want someone else to run the day-to-day so that I can focus on our community, product development, external, everything. And that's what we're going to do. And I worked for 12 years to get to a place where I could actually do that and have the luxury of someone else running the company. And then you get to your luxury and you're like, oh, this is the dream. Okay, this is actually really hard. Like, right? It's like when I got this building, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a building. And when I get the building, everything's going to be great. And all my problems will be solved. And then you have a whole ton of problems with the building, right? And so you just kind of, you realize that at every goal and every dream, it has its sets of setbacks too. Like things that are hard. Like I want to do certain things a certain way. Sometimes we don't have a budget for it. And I get a no. And so I have to be like, okay, all right, fair enough. We'll try again later. Like, it's just, I'm not in control of every detail.
Sure.
And that's like, whew, it's a whole new world when you have been in control of, you did every job and you owned every single responsibility. And all of a sudden you are not the final signer on something.
Well, you've been a huge inspiration for me personally, but for so many other people as well. Home cooks, chefs, like everyone knows who you are, and nothing but they just rave about you. And I think what you've done for the home cook is important, but you're also putting on the chef and restaurants like on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So I think like what you're doing is still providing a lot of spotlight and value to chefs, and that's important.
Yeah.
And it's starting there, and their influence will always trickle down to the home kitchen. And I'm really excited have sat down with you, chatted,
No.
caught up with you again.
You're the best. I always love our conversations. You're like so soulful. It's crazy. No,
Thank you, Ellen.
We've lived a lot of lives since knowing
Seriously.
each other. 12 years.
I know. We'll have to catch up again, not in 12 years.
Yeah, let's make it like 2.
Yeah, on a regular basis, but thank you for sitting down.
Oh
with
my
me.
God. Thank you.